next we will be having AI Revolution Creating Opportunities panel. And for that, I would like to invite Mr. Milind Bhandarkar, Senior Technologist at HPE, who will be moderating this panel.
Thank you, Rajita. I'm Milind Bhandarkar, and I will be the panel moderator for today. Initially, when we started discussing about this panel, we wanted to actually do it all in Marathi. So, Krutrim Buddhimatta Ani Yantra Shikshan. But then we got stuck at large language model. Model la kodala shabda atvat asil tar sanga Marathi. So finally we decided to do it in English. Alright, so we have very distinguished panelists with us today. I would like to invite Professor Ramesh Raskar, who you have heard earlier. Professor Raskar is Associate Director at MIT Media Lab. He has more than 80 patents and 200 plus publications on his name. He's a PhD from University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Please welcome Professor Raskar. You can just come to the center so that then you will be able to see all of us. Or as long as you can hear us, that should be fine. Our second panelist, Mr. Manoj Wadekar. Manoj is a hardware technologist and has a lot of experience, 30 plus years experience in building large scale hardware infrastructure. He has worked at several big well-known companies such as Intel, QLogic, eBay, and he is currently building AI systems at Meta. So please welcome Manoj. Our third panelist is Shirish Sadhe. Shirish Sadhe is a venture investor for quite a long time, 23 plus years. He is currently a general partner at Servin Ventures, where he focuses on enterprise infrastructure, enterprise cybersecurity, AI for startups, etc., etc. He has been previously a venture partner at Formation Aid, Khosla, etc. Some of his notable investments include Aruba Networks, Nutanix, Aviatrix, and many more companies. So please welcome Shirish. Alright, so we will be talking about AI ML mostly, right from, and you will have viewpoints from academics, researchers, venture capitalists, hardware practitioners, and I do some software for AI, so that's also you can get a perspective on that. So I'll be basically asking questions to them. I have prepared some questions, and at the end we'll basically open it up to the audience. Okay? So Professor Raskar, let me start with you. So we have witnessed, for us who have been in the industry for 20, 30 plus years, we have witnessed like 3 different waves of AI and their associated ventures, right? We started right from the 60s with Marvin Minsky's, perceptrons, rule-based systems, expert systems, genetic algorithms, you name it, right? But then what is different this time? And are we likely to see an AI vendor coming soon?
Yeah, every summer follows winters. There's nothing we can do that. I think we are going to see some kind of a winter coming up. Probably, either over investment or over expectation of what we think what this current wave of foundation models and large language or large vision models will take us. So I think we might be up for a disappointment for sure. Definitely in the investment aspect of it, because the world does not need 20 different companies doing roughly the same thing. There's just not space for that. And then on the other hand, there are many areas where there's underinvestment. I was in my presentation this morning, I said that the world GDP is $100 trillion. And all of that is going to be touched by internet within the next 5 years. But if you think about forestry and mining and shipping and shipping and port operations, all these things that really drive the world economy are going to be touched by AI. And I think we have a huge opportunity to focus on those areas as opposed to what looks very exciting right now, which is chatbots, summarization tools, video editors and movie makers. I don't think that's what the world really needs. The world needs us to solve all these other problems. And the other side of that would be the many entrenched problems like food and women's education and farmers' health and so on. My hope is that AI will go and make those sectors extremely lucrative for startups and innovators, because the productivity gains will be so high that actually it makes sense to go after those sectors as opposed to just sectors that we feel comfortable today, like SaaS and ad tech and so on.
Definitely makes sense. So related to that, I mean, since we have basically touched on AI is going to touch $100 trillion entire industry, right? So Shirish, next question is to you. What are some of the sectors that are most likely to be disrupted sooner than later among all the sectors in the industry?
Happy to answer that. Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. No? Okay. Yeah, okay, I'll speak up. Yeah, a little closer. Okay, sounds good. Thanks. Yeah, so I think, look, I mean, AI is, everybody says it's different this time, but AI is actually quite different. And just quickly to build upon what Mr. Rasker said, what AI needs two things. It needs lots of data, and it needs lots of compute power. In the early winters of AI, you didn't have those two things. So it was a technology looking for a problem. Now we have both. So for the first time though, knowledge workers will be disrupted by AI. Programmers will be disrupted by AI. And people are not quite ready to accept this yet, because so far knowledge workers have escaped from advances in technology. But even when computers first came, knowledge workers actually became more powerful. And while in the short term, AI will actually disrupt many, many jobs, it will create a vast number of jobs after that. People don't seem to agree with me, but I think AI will kill a lot of jobs in the beginning, and it will be knowledge workers for the most part. But it will also, for the first time though, creatives will become more important, because as the jobs of programming, accounting, and all of that become routine and AI can do those, people with more creativity and imagination, because AI still can't replace those jobs. So I think STEM education is great, but liberal arts might come back, because that sort of thinking is not possible to do with AI. So I think if you look ahead several years, first knowledge workers will get disrupted, and then they'll have to transform themselves into, they have to adapt to the environment and then come back strong. So I think ultimately this is a great thing for employment.
Yeah, great. So switching the track a little bit, I mean, as to how do we get there, right? Obviously, large-scale infrastructure is getting built for AI workloads, and obviously we had the first $1 trillion semiconductor company, and then $2 trillion and $3 trillion semiconductor company just based on the AI workloads and GPUs. But what other changes, Manoj, are you seeing in the hardware infrastructure that you are building for AI specifically?
So, guy who does bits and bytes and networks for TV, have patience with me. What Milind you are saying and all of you are saying that right now we are in the beginning of this infrastructure investment. So when you talk about AI, there is a significant investment. Mark Zuckerberg, Meta talked about how many billions of dollars he's going to invest in the next few years. You can see that in Nvidia cost, the stock doing very well. Where that comes from is basically the infrastructure that gets built into the data centers today. So even though we look at GPU as a primary compute capability that Shirish talked about, there's a huge amount of infrastructure that needs to get built to enable that. So now we're going to just build these things, then you're going to see whether the ROI happens in the next few years. Like Professor Raska talked about, we'll have to see how that ROI will be, but right now the investment is going to be to enable that GPU. So at least three things I can think about right now immediately happening. First is the network. These GPUs talk a lot to each other. They need very high bandwidth. If you think a single server having 100 gigabits per second as really 100 as a number, just let's take that. GPUs take almost 500x of that bandwidth. So there is a huge amount of networking bandwidth. Used to be single network, they become 3 networks, high performance networks for a GPU. So networking is one area that infrastructure will see a huge boost in next few years. Main important part that comes is basically these are really hot. This AI stuff is hard. It is literally hard. It takes a lot of power. So you can think of every rack you can compute unit. It takes more than 100x power to charge these guys, which basically means you need to cool them down also. So power and cooling technology, this is all not sexy stuff, but this is real stuff. This is what it takes for you to run that infrastructure. And then of course you're going to talk about its completely new version, which is long time back actually the supercomputers were changed with the data warehouse size computers with Google when it started, commodity servers. You got lots of commodity servers being connected. Now it's changing where you can't really continue to expand use the Moore's law to continue to get a higher performance, which is basically people are putting stuff more and more closer together. That means you'll see the whole board getting into a single package. So the chiplet economy is something that is going to start coming. So there are three things I see at least for sure, which is going to enable this GPU growth, the AI growth at a hardware level, which is going to be the networks, power, and the chiplets. So at least there are three areas that I can see that a lot of innovation is going to happen.
Yeah, we have basically seen a lot of, just to add on to that, I think we have seen a lot of proprietary interconnects basically coming up, so, right? The GPU to GPU, NVLink, etc., etc. Does Ethernet still have a role to play in this new infrastructure?
I can start with it and let Shirish also chime in on that.
I have an opinion on that.
Okay. So I think Ethernet always changes, man. So okay, whatever you want to call as a cool technology, Ethernet becomes that in the next generation.
So, there are midway the stopgap like ATM and then
yes,
you had InfiniBand, but then Ethernet always wins.
Ethernet always consumed all of that and didn't call it Ethernet. So it will continue. Ethernet was never lostly. It was all the losses. It becomes lossless. But coming back to your point, the bandwidth is going to be humongous requirement. What is changing for this infrastructure is basically what used to be commodity is definitely becoming more and more proprietary. So a lot of these complete solutions that are being provided by vendors allows you to have single source solutions. So for now, that's how it's going to be continuing. So we are seeing some turn towards more proprietary solutions, and they may almost look like supercomputers just because they come from a single vendor. So Google, when it started data computer, there are lots of servers with lots of. So I think Ethernet will continue to play a role in different versions. We will call that even in a few years.
Yeah, just kind of looking at a higher level view. First of all, we want to make a distinction between AI for modalities that everybody needs, like text, videos, images, and so on. And that shift has passed, and that will be conquered by large players. And that will require large servers and so on. But if you look at other modalities, such as MRI of your images, or your planning for your agriculture or architecture, all these other data sets will not be owned by large players. So will they require the NVIDIA GPUs and the clusters? Probably not. So if you think about what's happening in AI PC, and Microsoft's going to win this game, by the way, it's a very unique world happening. So they're expecting about 60 million AI PCs to be sold in 2024, 2025, the next 1 year. And if you take that over the next 5 years, that's roughly about 300 million PCs that have very strong AI capabilities. Only better and better, not just this year or next 5 years. So if you compare that with whatever NVIDIA can sell, NVIDIA is going to be dwarfed by the amount of power that's available to us in our homes, in our desktops. The same thing happened, as I said in the morning, between the great supercomputers and the PC revolution in the 80s. So now, if most of the compute is not in data centers, but actually with us, what really matters is the operating system that's controlling it. So Microsoft has this amazing game that they're going to win, which is they are outsourcing all the compute to us. I'm going to pay the electricity bill. I'm going to buy the computer from Dell or HP. I'm going to pay Microsoft for my operating system, and Microsoft is going to outsource all the compute to me. Just the same way Tesla did it for their cameras and capturing the data streams for that. So once you see that shift, companies like Microsoft will capture most of the value in modalities that are not standard, like images, video, text, and so on. And then comes the challenge of companies like Apple, which are effectively playing the Microsoft game in a different way, which is you have a private AI cloud, which is a version 0.1 of what you would do the same as an AI PC. Because once they have a lead, in creating individual agents. Like, for every Ramesh, there is a black box sitting on iCloud. That is going to eventually transfer over.
Your digital twin will be sitting on the cloud.
Yeah, but it won't be in the cloud anymore, because why should they pay for it?
Right.
Why should Apple pay for it? They will make me pay for it, because on my Mac, it will be running that. So you're going to see this very interesting decentralization of data, compute, and governance. And I think it's time to sell NVIDIA stock.
All right. Okay. So Shirish, actually alluding to what Professor Raskar said, the big players already have, Google, Microsoft, Meta, they have such a big lead because of the data that they have already available about us and the compute infrastructure that they have built in order to carry out the AI workflows. So in this case, what should the startups focus on when you are trying to take advantage of the new AI ecosystem?
That's a great question. So the foundational models, the trillion parameter, GPT-5 or whatever it is, that's all will be done by the big companies. And I actually think I agree with Oscar that that's a brute force approach, right? And that will work, okay, but it also has many problems. It hallucinates, right? Because it is trying to be too general. What startups can do, and here's what we are seeing every day. Every day startups take a capability that can be done without AI and bolt on AI to that. And they bolt it on by using OpenAI. We don't fund any of that because there is no differentiation whatsoever, right? But we see that every single day, right? They take something, they say, okay, now we are turning it into an AI version.
Sprinkle some AI.
Yeah, sprinkle some AI, AI washing. What will happen though is that there will be domain-specific models, right? There will be maybe a model, a smaller model, trained on a CPU on your personal computer that is for drug discovery, and not even drug discovery, even narrower than that, for a certain subset of drugs, right? There will be a model for that. I know somebody in the audience who's working on a model for networking companies, where they will train the AI model they will suck in all the manuals of all the networking companies out there, and suck in all the RFPs, internet RFPs, and then use that model to answer questions. And because, I'll give you a simple example. If you use the word router, OpenAI doesn't know if you're talking about router, an internet router or a woodworking router. Right? And that's why it hallucinates. But the networking company will clearly know when you use the word router, what are you talking about. So I think there will be open source models trained and fine-tuned on domain-specific data to answer domain-specific questions in a much more predictable, non-hallucinatory manner. And those kinds of startups we are investing in. There is another type of startup that we have already invested in, not to plug one of my companies, but it allows you to use AI models on CPUs much faster than on GPUs. Right? And how does it do that? It does that not by multiplying matrices faster, which everybody has tried on CPUs with no success, but it basically replaces matrix multiplication, which is a fundamental requirement of training AI models, with hash functions. And hash functions are very easy on CPUs. And so those kinds of innovative technology companies are what we're looking for, not the bolt-on AI companies that please don't come to my office with me.
So actually, this is very interesting. Manoj mentioned about the power-hungry, AI systems, and you are now talking about, just CPUs using the used for model training.
I'll just say one quick thing on that. So I don't think the brute force trillion parameter models, there is enough power or enough cooling in the world to solve that problem. Right? It has to be decentralized.
Yeah. Then we have been here before, right? I mean, in the high performance computing, like we used to build, like Cray and other folks were basically building custom built supercomputers to simulations at that time, physical simulations, right? So, Manoj, do you still see that custom built supercomputers or custom built systems for AI will be built, or would this all be commodity and just lash out a bunch of machines together in order to build that infrastructure?
Again, I'm here and today person, right? So what I can say is basically right now the world is going in a different direction. it is going towards what you call as supercomputers. In the sense, it is becoming proprietary, large systems being built. They are just built in a slightly different way. It's not a single company building it, but they create the components. But when you look at it, you will buy NVIDIA. NVIDIA will just talk to NVIDIA. You're going to get a large cluster where they talk about 100,000 GPUs talking to each other, but it's going to be connected with the switches that are specific. There are going to be cables which are specific. So today it is looking like what used to be supercomputer when you deploy. It's just that it is managed differently. It is put together differently. The world of commodity where everybody participates and creates lots of choices for you, they are not there today. It will take a long time for that to happen. To Shirish's point, for that you have to get a lot of alternative technology which provides similar capability. This is again coming from the Meta's and Google's kind of view where we have large data and that's the model we have to serve the ads, that means have to consume that data and create ads which will be delivered to people, right? So today that's the direction it is going. But then you see that everybody is working on their own accelerators which will try to create abstraction and try to make it them look like similar, but there's a long journey there. So I don't see, I'm not a waiting man, but I don't see that happening next 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, some of our enterprise customers also are very, very nervous that they are creating a single bottleneck in the supply chain for their infrastructure, for GPUs especially, right? There isn't a GPU with the software stack that is provided that is available from anybody else right now, and that's what makes them really nervous. So hopefully, people actually, AMDs and Intels of the world actually get there and create their software stack.
But this is why you see now how many people knew TSMC as a word, right? Right now everybody wants to make sure that TSMC has a allocation for you.
Yeah, that's right. So before we hand it over to the audience questions, I mean, to each one of you or to any one of you, I will ask one final question. What is one factor that you basically see, or the most important factor that is prohibiting adoption of AI in the enterprises?
Well, from my perspective, it is two things. The ROI of AI is not clear yet. It's not clear that AI, so boardrooms are asking CEOs, what's your AI strategy? And the CEO doesn't know what AI is. So the CEO is calling McKinsey and asking, what's my AI strategy? So that's the state of affairs right now. And McKinsey, of course, is charging by the hour. They're answering that question. But the ROI
ChatGPT you cannot ask ChatGPT what is my AI strategy.
Maybe that's what McKinsey is doing. But the ROI of AI is not clear. So that's one reason. But that will get resolved. The second thing that is holding people back is privacy concerns and proprietary data leakage. No matter how much OpenAI insists that they keep your data private, we have learned not to believe that now because of all the bad behavior of the other big tech companies.
That's well said. I would say first of all, there's a confusion, and Shishir here, of what you mean by AI, and especially this unnecessary enamorment with Gen AI, because Gen AI is not what really matters in AI, because there are so many people who want to create like more poems and create more movies. So generative AI is not it. It's mostly AI, which is analytics, understanding, reasoning, planning, and so on. So that's what's going to be a trillion-dollar industry. It's not Gen AI. The second one, you hinted at this. I think there are three main issues for large-scale adoption, whether it's enterprise or elsewhere. The first one you hinted at, which is the notion of data and privacy. This is a major concern, and we need a completely new solution. If you're an Amazon or a Meta or whatever, then you are in your own walled garden, you can do whatever you want. But for most of the players, you have to communicate with each other. So there's a confusion between distributed AI and decentralized AI. And those of us who come from the previous era think like distributed compute is same as distributed AI, but it's not. There's a huge difference between distributed AI and decentralized AI. The first one is privacy and data, because your transactions in distributed compute are with data and compute. But in decentralized AI, your transactions are about wisdom. Hey, I'm one enterprise, you're one enterprise, we are going to share wisdom with each other, but we are not willing to share data with each other. So the trading of wisdom is critical, which means that it brings the second problem, which is verifiability. If I'm trading in wisdom but not in data, like Facebook, I was at Facebook myself, Meta, trades in data, but they just trust each other because they can see the raw data. But if you cannot see raw data, how do you trust each other? So the verifiability of your wisdom. And the third one is how do you pay for it? So you hear about, OpenAI paying 60 million to Reddit and so on, but those are very clumsy, very kind of lawyer and business development related driven interactions. There has to be a way to value your data and models. Just a small plug, that's exactly what we do at MIT under decentralized AI. And if you have to have decentralized AI, you have to solve 3 problems. Privacy data, verifiability, and incentivization. And the good news is that the decentralized web world, which is somewhat scammy world of cryptocurrency, but some later technologies, have already solved some of those problems. And Medha Parlikar is here, one of the world's expert, and she will tell you that we can adopt some of the same technologies to move to decentralized AI.
I think it's covered very well, and I think this side is, it takes significant investment, so there needs to be ROI and other use cases have to be identified.
So open to audience questions. I think we already have one.
I would say actually the technology questions, that you raised, the infrastructure and the modeling and the wisdom versus data, all that, those are the easy. Sorry, so not closer.
Can you just closer to the mic?
Oh, okay. So I would say the technology questions that, can you guys hear me now? Yep.
Yeah.
That you guys have raised, those are the easy questions, okay? Those are the easiest questions of all. The really hard questions, which I think have yet to answer, is what is the impact on humans? Okay, because AI will progress very rapidly. It'll progress to the point where substantially all the pyramid of value addition in human work, starting with the lowest level, let's say paralegal or CPA type, bookkeeping type activities, or even programming, right? Journeyman programming. It'll progress very quickly up to where you get where machines become better programmers than people. They start to write their own programs. You get the super sort of acceleration of machine intelligence, which builds itself, right? And Aschenbrenner, right, who just got laid off from or removed from OpenAI, wrote a 65-page manifesto called what was it? State of the art or something, okay? And that's fascinating because it talks about super intelligence. It says that the last invention we will ever make is when AI gets to the point where it becomes as smart as the smartest AI researcher. And as soon as that happens, the thing just takes off by itself. We are literally all obsolete. Okay, so the questions here are 2 things. Okay, one is, I think, so copyright. Okay, so just 2 examples. Copyrights. Okay, of human, let's say, invention, right? Creativity, so on and so forth. It's all scraped. We're not attributing back to the creators. Number 1. Number 2, port operations. You mentioned specifically. So I was at a port conference in Long Beach last 2 days. I brought this up. I said, okay, it's very easy using what we have today to automate all ports. Okay, everything can just be completely autonomous. And of course, the labor question. Okay, immediately it was so controversial because immediately the unions of the ports all over the world, get really worried when you say this stuff, that all their jobs are going away, that they have to reskill, they have to become something else. That's very hard for a lot of people, right? So, if you can comment on perhaps the human impact, how do we mitigate that with all this?
Anybody wants to address that? I mean, so just to complement that, right? Impacts on humans.
Can you repeat the question? I didn't understand.
No, so it's basically mainly about impact on humans, right? I mean, copyrights, human inventions, as in writings. Why are the OpenAIs and the likes of it basically just building their model? And where is the copyright coming from, right? That was one of the things. And then there was about the what is going to be the impact on humans, right? I mean, I really want the AI that actually does my laundry and dishes and stuff like that, so that I can focus on the creative stuff rather than that AI basically generating poetry and text for me, right? And me having to do the laundry. But anyway, so the related question obviously is that millions and millions of software developers, I think you alluded to it, the knowledge workers are the ones that are, so now if you go to GitHub Copilot and basically say, hey, write me a web service that accepts 7 parameters and gives me this thing, right? Earlier, the human being would have to be employed, the one that knows certain language, etc., etc. Now you give that as a question and it generates that for you, right? How does one protect itself from these kinds of AIs basically being created, as in humans, right? Very closely related to your question.
It's too early in the morning to answer questions like that. Go ahead.
It is multiple level questions. One is basically what does it do to us from the employability perspective? What does it do to us from all the things that we enjoy as what humans create, which will include what you talked about, poetry, etc. I mean, activity theater is AI going to replace me. I'm going to get the scripts from the AI. Suddenly, all the writers are out of it. What's my copyrighted work? It's not only about the code. The work that people have generated poetry over generations and they left there the whole life cycle. It is a difficult question. Right now it is creating, it goes back to the question about, hey, what is the ROI? So I think everybody is in a rush to, of course we are creating this infrastructure. I'm creating part of the infrastructure which will enable that. We have hopes that actually in the past technological developments like this have always created more. They start with basically compromising our capabilities to some level. ATM machines was an example. But the hope of course is that it will return more than that. But I think we are in very early phase, and I think even though I work at Meta and I create this infrastructure, there needs to be some kind of caution for sure. That's what my personal belief, not Meta thoughts.
I'll just give a
Regulation.
I just give a short answer to the question. First of all, I'm not qualified to answer the question about ethics in AI. Right? The whole question of ethics in AI, copyright, impact on humans, machines taking over the world, I'm not qualified to answer. However, I'll say one thing. As far as copyright goes, this will get resolved. Right? We have the same issue with YouTube. It's just that the AI is much bigger. I can create a likeness of of Tom Cruise, right? And not pay Tom Cruise to make the next Top Gun movie. I can do that with AI. So it's just a bigger problem. It will get resolved. But all the ethics questions I'm not qualified to answer. In fact, I asked somebody the other day that what classes are you taking in AI, say some university, and they said they're teaching a class on ethics in AI. I said they know enough to teach a class on ethics in AI. I didn't realize they had solved their problem.
Another question?
I am Shyam Nawate from Georgia Tech, and I wrote a textbook on databases back in '89. It's still being used. So the fundamentals have not changed in our technology. That's one point I want to make.
Yeah, I have read that book.
Okay. The second point I want to make is that because we created so much data in a centralized fashion, and because Google and Yahoo and Facebook came along and created the real-time data now, that AI has become now tangibly useful. Otherwise, we taught courses in AI 45, 50 years ago, right? So AI is not new, but it's the application of AI that is becoming feasible because of the data. So one question I have is, what about all the data in the third world and so on? If we really have to benefit humanity, right, in a large scale, in terms of food, hunger, climate change, and so on, we need that data to really help the localized and the decentralization. I really agree with the point being made. How will that be feasible, and what should we do about that?
So decentralization, it fits right in.
Yeah.
And I think you are on a mission to collect more data with the Kumbh Mela. I know exactly what is,
I think there's kind of the Chinese model where we can centralize as much as we want, but then you're into a Soviet model that doesn't last very long. Then you have the European model, which is you are constrained by GDPR and lots of complex systems and right to be forgotten and so on. So that does not compatible with AI. And the US model is somewhere in between. I think India really has an opportunity to do this the right way. I think there are many ways. It's a longer conversation about how decentralization can be used. I think there are many ways to do that right, especially if you have open protocols. So I think it's an exciting opportunity if you can have sandboxes like Kumbh Mela. Of course, it really gets you going because you can kind of leapfrog some of these challenges. But many sectors like health or finance, the data is really sensitive. We're the first ones to really show the power of aggregating wisdom but not aggregating data. And that's the key, the key phrase behind decentralization. Aggregate wisdom but not data. So I think there are various ways we can do it. And hopefully you have read another book in databases, because these databases will look very different than the ones that Google and Meta are monitoring right now.
Yeah, we were talking about, the decentralization basically brings to mind from the database industry the term data virtualization. So probably AI virtualization will be something that is, stay where your AI is and will, have those computes done. I'll take just one more question because there seems to be a lot of interest, and we are just about, even if he says time's up, just one question, quick question, please.
I actually have more of a comment around the Skynet concern. So when we talk about decentralization, decentralized networks, they operate more like countries, communities of a hive mind. So you can think of decentralized AI very much in the same way, where the AI is governed by a community of people. And the community controls the AI, both in terms of its data, its training, and when you combine incentivization mechanisms into that, I can choose to share my data. I may come up with some data. The data may be cleaned, sanitized in some way that I own, and I can choose to train that AI in that data set and get compensated for it. So this solves a little bit of the universal basic income problem, how I own my data, I monetize my own data, it's self-sovereign, and there isn't somebody controlling the AI. And then you get a very diverse group of minds and beliefs and philosophies, and that addresses the hallucination problem, it addresses the bias problem, and it also addresses who controls the master switch for the AI in the event the AI goes off the rails. So this notion of decentralized AI, and the Web3 community is working on it very actively. I know Ramesh is like one of the forefronts at MIT Media that's working on this, and people like myself are also working on this to help make AI safe for the world, because we believe the technology is incredible, but there does need to be incentive models. Decentralization in terms of it's owned by humanity. It's not owned by a few people in a room, right? So these large models that are contributing to humanity are owned by humanity and governed by humanity. And I think Web3 is hopefully going to converge with AI to make that happen.
I think that was a great comment.
Well said.
Unfortunately, we are out of time. All of us will be either outside in the lobby during the break, so you can basically personally ask those questions.
That was not a question, so the question is
Okay, found a technical issue
So,
there. Okay.
I'd like to introduce first quickly, my name is Mandar. I will be super precise. I work in product development and innovation. My question to you guys is, what I liked was the different areas where we see the AI revolution. So, where do you guys see in health, wellness, and mental well-being of humans? Do you see any evolution there of AI that could help us improve and make our life with that? That could be a data, that could be an application, that could be even some apps. So I would like to get some information from you. Thank you.
Shirish, I don't know how many pictures you get about startups trying to solve mental health. I don't even look at them anymore.
Is there a startup called AI Girlfriend or something like that?
There's more than one.
Okay.
There's more than one. No, but yeah, I think the application of AI to mental health is a very important question and a very important topic. And I do see a lot of companies in that area. I have not yet found one that I like, but I think there will be at least one company. I mean, I just don't know how to evaluate those kinds of companies because we are technologists and we need a combination of those. You need a special kind of venture capitalist to understand both sides of the equation. I think I understand one side sort of, the other side I don't, which is why I probably am not interested. But yeah, it's an important issue.
I mean, you need some of those companies to undo all the damage that Facebook has inflicted on us.
I want
Punching back is right
not,
here.
but yes, I tend to agree.
All right, thank you very much.
I want to share the most important piece of news, which is India scored 171.
All right.
And this is the lunch break going on in Guyana, and then England has to play after this, but we should stay here and support the Marathi communities.
All right, freedom. England freedom.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All right, good.
And you
All
still
right.
listen to
Let's
us.
thank all our panelists.
Just 2 minutes, can you please be here? We want to felicitate you. session is not over yet. We also have one video coming up, so please stay tuned. Please be seated. Can we give a round of applause for all these panelists for the fantastic discussion which we had? AI is a truly burning topic right now, and having such great panelists was a blessing for all of us. I really hope we all learned something today.